Asvoria.
So welcome, Wayne. Welcome, Russell.
Thank you.
Um, Wayne, first question. With your extensive background in education and blockchain, how do you see platforms like Asvoria playing a role in educating users about Web3 and decentralized technology?
Yeah, man, I definitely think from what I've looked at it, it could definitely play a huge role because I've always said since the beginning, since I was trying to figure out this space, right? So a little over 8 years ago, I finally decided, we kind of hear about it first and then we finally decide to jump in. And I realized that this is going to be revolutionary. This technology can change so many different things in the world, but two things had to happen. And we needed education and we needed user interfaces to make it easy for people to use. Right. I think we've all agreed we've made mistakes on sending to the wrong address. People have lost seed phrases. So the user interfaces have to get better. But I think education is at the core because people are afraid of what they don't understand, or they end up getting scammed by what they don't understand. So it's important that anybody, and I'm an advocate of any project that's really leading with education. That's definitely something I like to see.
Okay.
Yeah, that's such a great point. And for me, the underlying goal since I got into blockchain has always been about mass adoption. I'm sure that's the case with you as well. And that is something that we'd all like to see. And there's just no way to get there without education. It's a necessary component because, like you said, there is a steep learning curve technically, to just having your wallet, understanding how to secure it, understanding how to send and receive crypto safely, because you make one little mistake and it's gone forever, and you forget your password, you can't click forget password and have it reset for you. So it is a different user experience, and that gets back to your point about user interface and how important that is. And they're to try to make things as simple and as intuitive as possible. All of these things are necessary for mass adoption, and hopefully there'll be more of an emphasis on them going forward.
Yeah. Will you also access Web3 platforms to educate people further in the future, or?
I mean, I think that'll be a key component for sure. Like Web3 is, everybody will be using it very quickly, whether they like it or not. It's just the way it is. It was the same thing with Web 1, the same thing with Web 2. I mean, we were all just barely getting used to browsers and email, and then all of a sudden social media and user-generated content appeared. And, it took some people longer than others, but, today it's ubiquitous, and we all use social media, and we all use Web 2 because that's the standard. So the same thing will happen in Web 3, and the cycle gets accelerated each time. So it'll happen a lot quicker with Web 3.
First, it will start with the younger generation, and then it will evolve that everybody will be on the platform. Okay, Wayne, second question. Could you share with us your journey from traditional education into becoming the crypto coach? What were the pivotal moments or insights that led you to this path?
Yeah, so for me, I was in a corporate job that I had a lot of managing teams, leading sales teams, and also training. Basically I had to constantly train people to build a talent bench. So I was really, I really enjoyed that aspect of the people business, educating people and helping them to be better at themselves and further themselves in their career. And so 2016, I decided to jump into this. And a little bit of background, I've always been a tech enthusiast. I've always been interested in the latest tech. I'm the type of guy that if something new comes out, I got to try it. I always said, if you want to get me to buy something, just slap a new sticker on it and I'll try it out. And so, I mean, I'm sitting here, I've got the foldable phone, right? I was one of the first ones to try that thing out. So for me in 2016, I finally had a friend that said, Wayne, quit ignoring Bitcoin. I was complaining about a stock investment that went bad, and he said, man, this is the future. And so I dug into it, and then I realized I didn't really understand money. So I started going down that deep rabbit hole of the history of money, our Federal Reserve, our current banking systems, how all of that operated. And I came up to the quick conclusion, even before I understood Bitcoin or even dove into blockchain or anything deeper, was like, holy crap, we have a problem. We've got, this is definitely not a sustainable system that we're in. What's next? And then kind of like Russell alluded to, I've always been a student of past technology cycles. So if you look at how past technologies have adopted over time and the different stages, this really isn't that much different. And so that's when I realized a big gap was education. And I'm not a developer, I'm not a coder. So I decided, hey, if I want to kind of learn more about this space, then I need to start everything that I learn and absorb, I need to teach to others. Because I don't know if you ever heard that saying, when one teaches, two learn. Because as I taught it, I was learning more, I was becoming more. So I'd learn something, I'd teach somebody, learn something, teach. That led to me creating content, eventually helping different projects put out content, and then eventually led to putting on events in Miami and elsewhere, and then eventually working in the space full time. 2 years ago, I finally made that leap from a 24-year corporate career to full time in this space. My wife thought I was nuts. She doesn't understand this space, but all she knew at the time 2 years ago was Bitcoin was down. And she's like, "Are you sure about this?" And I was like, "Yeah, I've never been more sure about anything because, I can see the future." Like Russell said, when you see those past adoption cycles, this is definitely what's coming. I meet with businesses now, and I tell them all the time that every business in a few years is going to have a Web3 strategy. Just like they have a social media strategy, and 10 years ago that was considered ridiculous. Why would a plumber need a Facebook page? Unheard of, right? And 25 years ago, same thing with websites. Why would they need a website? They have perfectly good yellow pages. Now I don't think you can find a phone book if you wanted to, right?
Yeah. And can you tell us a little bit more about 𝗧𝗶𝗺𝗀𝘀?
Yeah. So 𝗧𝗶𝗺𝗀𝗀 protocol, we launched a protocol in March of 2020 with the help of Binance and some other investors. It was a layer one blockchain designed to make using any asset easier. So even though we have our own chain, the protocol itself gets integrated into wallets, exchanges, and other platforms to where you can easily send and receive assets using handles. We call them handles. So Web3 handles in the format of user at domain. So we don't use dot extensions. And kind of around the same time, like we had already seen ENS had emerged on the scenes shortly before us. We're not trying to compete with them. ENS does a great job in the EVM system. But our goal is interoperability across all chains. Whether you're sending Bitcoin, Solana, ETH, it doesn't matter. You can map that to a single handle. And so we've created some other protocols since to where you can send like a decentralized payment request, just like you may be familiar with PayPal or Venmo, sending a payment request. You can do that for any cryptocurrency. So, and you even have the ability in that request to put a memo of what you want to, whether it's invoice or why you're requesting those funds. And we've also created some technology around as NFTs. I think we've seen a hype of NFTs, but we haven't seen the full utilization. But part of our protocol allows you to take those handles and create a digital signature to basically authentify that an NFT is the actual one and not a fraudulent, not a copy, not a fake. We could all of us could probably figure that out by looking at a contract address. But again, we don't know. The masses aren't going to go to a block explorer and look up a contract address to make sure something's valid. So our whole goal is around usability and making things easier. So a few years ago, it was a little over 3.5 years ago, I ran into the 𝗧𝗶𝗺𝗀𝗀 team. I hosted an event, and they were one of our sponsors that I was able to connect with, and love what they were doing. And so started helping out the team part-time until jumping in full-time. So our goal is just focused on usability. We're structured as a nonprofit foundation too. So we're not trying to sell domains for tens of thousands of dollars or more. Every domain within our protocol is $40. And not everybody even needs a domain to use a handle, because we have some generic domains like @wallet or @hodl or @moon that anybody can use for free. So the goal is to just really get that user adoption.
So for not being a developer, this is a major development. Yeah, okay. Russell, maybe something to add to this?
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say that's both of these things are so needed. Like especially in terms of wallet addresses received. Somebody wants to send you, and you have to go and copy and paste this long string of random characters. And it's been there's ENS and there's Paymail and there's other systems that are sort of wallet specific or chain specific. But the industry desperately needs, and for mass adoption, we desperately need a simple way to give and share and receive other people's payment wallet address to be able to send them payment. And, to also be able to do it cross-chain. This is the other thing right now. Bridging is really the only option. And again, it requires some technical knowledge. It requires, a leap of faith because, and they are very vulnerable from a security standpoint. They're usually the weak link where hacks occur. So They're far from ideal. We need a much more integrated interoperability, cross-chain compatibility, and FIO is great on both fronts.
Thanks, Russell. Yeah, and just to add to that, one quick note, those long wallet addresses that Russell mentioned, I mean, why does the user ever even need to see those? And think about, and I go back to these technologies we use today. When we were going to this website today, we either typed in StreamYard.com or we clicked the link. We didn't have to see the IP address. The IP address is in the background, and that's our destination of where we ended up. But we don't need to see that. So the user needs a simple experience, not one that's going to confuse them. And so I always, even when I talk to people, whether it's about what we do at FIO or just this technology in general, is we've got, there's certain aspects of it that the user doesn't need to see. And I know we've got some developers in this space that have built some great tech, but now let's simplify it.
Yeah. And then from your experience, what are the major challenges in wider adoption of cryptocurrencies and blockchain technologies? And how can platforms like Asvoria address these challenges? As for you. No, Wayne, it's a question for you.
Oh, okay. There's a lot of challenges. I mentioned the two main ones, but it's really just the misconceptions of what it is. And the one thing that's unique about this is anybody can jump in and create a token. Anybody can launch a project. A lot of projects in this space are open source, so I can go and copy it. So it's building trust is part of it. There's a narrative that in the media that we're slowly overcoming where they're constantly, it's always been negativity, right? But it was the same with the internet and helping people realize that this is something that could potentially change their world. This is not just an investment scheme. This is not just something where you could potentially lose your money. This is something that'll give you access, whether you're an individual, whether you're a business owner. And I think what Russell and these guys are doing, it's needed as well. I mean, you've got to, and also you got to lead with community too. So community is important, right? Because communities help people. The right communities can help people learn the space, not fall victim to scams, because scammers are going to prey on people's ignorance. And there were scammers in the early days of the stock market. There were scammers in the early days of the .com bubble. So that's not going to go away. So we've got to build communities and build projects that are going to make it a lot easier to really bring in the masses, like bring in that next, we've got a lot of people in it. And I think what everybody here is doing is working on bringing in that next wave of people, helping to show them this is not as scary as it sounds. This is not as hard as it sounds, but it's definitely very easy once you start to get in and dabble around. And that it's great to see. All the great projects that are being built with this. I think that's one thing that's not highlighted enough in the space. A lot of the projects that get recognition are the ones that are either paying a ton of money for marketing. There's a lot of hype, like a lot of pump and dumps. But a lot of the ones building, I challenge even the media, especially if you're pro Web3, is to start covering more of those projects that are really going to impact the world, because it's what we have now is a kind of a pay-to-play model. If you've got a lot of money, you can get in front of the right people. But we need to start highlighting those that are going to really change the world.
Where are you searching for a community? Is it brands or crypto enthusiasts?
It's not just crypto enthusiasts for us. One of the things that I did early on in my journey, as I started to teach others about crypto, I wasn't really known for a while in the cryptocurrency industry, right? I was still kind of learning. I was podcasting and starting to get out there. But one of the things that I really enjoyed was I would attend. I knew people that were holding like personal development events or traditional finance events, and I would partner with them. So it's not just about crypto enthusiasts. It's really crypto curious, because even if they don't know anything about it and they're curious, if we can help onboard them the right way, we can bring them on. So just recently, one of the travels I had was local. I'm in New Orleans, Louisiana. And in October of last year, there was a music conference here called Musicon. And it was put on by some of the producers that ran South by Southwest for a while. And it was their first event. But they asked me to go and speak about Web3. And I was the only person there speaking about it. Everybody else was talking about different aspects of the music industry. And I really enjoyed that because there was a lot of people that were just ready for knowledge and they don't know where to start. So yeah, that's kind of where we're looking for, is people that are not just crypto enthusiasts, but crypto communities. On the side, I do think brands are important. I've been reaching out to some non-Web3, non-crypto brands recently, just because you've got to have adoption in the business side for more users to come on board, right? And what we've seen with Starbucks with their Odyssey NFT program, Nike with their programs, Visa just announced a Web3 program. They're all trying to figure out their place in this space as well. So I think showing some of the other brands like, look, you have a better way to connect with your users if you adopt this technology, and kind of showing them. So it's really, I'd say mainly it's the crypto curious, but I think we do have to do some work with some of the brands to where more people are realizing that this is coming, because those also help break down people's barriers and misconceptions. Like, hey, this Web3 thing, it's scary, it's scammy, I don't know about it. Wait, Starbucks has an NFT program? Wait, Nike has an NFT program? Disney has just launched an NFT marketplace? People don't understand or realize these things are happening.
Yeah. And AI will also have a big role in Web3. And I think this will be a game changer for brands to come into the space, because they are not scared of artificial intelligence, but they are scared for crypto at this point. So yeah, AI will be a big role in this community. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I love what you said, Wayne, about the utility of Web3, and that's, I think, what we're going to see this cycle compared to the last. Is the last one was definitely hype over substance, and this time it'll be about how can you use Web3 to provide real world value and utility, and especially when you look at creators, when you look at brands and what they can accomplish as basically using Web3 for next level engagement and this kind of next generation fan club loyalty program, however you want to structure it. But individuals, whether they're artists, musicians, athletes, luxury brands, eventually everybody, but giving you your most engaged users, first of all, rewarding them for engagement. Second of all, giving them a voice and more influence, and you can engage with them. You can engage with your community in ways that is impossible outside of Web3 technology. And that's really, once you isolate that, you make that value proposition clear, it becomes a lot easier for brands to come on board.
Yeah, absolutely. We definitely need, because that's a lot of things. When I do get someone's interest, it's okay, where do we go now? Now I can help them with one aspect, but I need to point them to Asvoria and others to where, hey, look, this is where you can, it's plug and play, get in, connect with these guys, and you can build your engagement model.
Yeah. So Wayne, you're also a colleague of me. You're a podcast host from No Crypto to Known Crypto. It's a fantastic resource. And what role do you believe content creation and media play in the blockchain space, especially regarding platforms like Asvoria, for example?
Oh, man, it's important to, and I've always said this, even since I've gotten in with Theo, to focus people on the right content. And this may ruffle some feathers in the space, but there's been a lot of crypto influencers, I'm sure you guys would agree, over the years. And I didn't want to be an influencer. I want to be an educator, because what happens with influencers most of the time, many of them have come and gone, and are the ones that are still around. Some of them have tarnished their name by shilling stuff on their community. And then it comes out that, hey, at the same time they were telling you to buy, they were selling. And they're basically, it's similar to some of the media. It's the highest bidder gets the attention. Like, they only promote a project if someone pays them a lot of money to do it. And we needed something different. So I think content creation is important in education, and it's not something you can build overnight. Trust takes a long time to build, but it only takes a second to ruin it. And so it's really about, content creators that are focusing on doing this for the right reasons. And, I think I think a lot of the influencers may have started with that intention. But just like we do, we see the masses do during a bull market, the hype and the greed gets a hold of you, and people, they kind of stray from those values. So I think content creation is vital. And that's kind of how I got my start in the business too. While podcasting, I started reaching out to certain companies that I liked, and I was like, hey, look, if you want to bring on more people into your platform, you've got to onboard new people to crypto, because there's only so many people in the space. We're in an echo chamber where if we're constantly just talking to the same people that already understand the basics, we're not getting anywhere. We got to bring new people in. And so if you have a platform and you have a website that you have a project, and someone goes to your website, they don't understand something on your website. If you don't have the resources there for them to learn and understand, hey, what is a wallet? What are private keys? What is a public wallet address? If you don't have that, then they're gonna hop off. They're gonna go to Google or YouTube and try to search for the answer, and they might even find a scam, but they may not even make it back to your website. So it's important to have those resources everywhere. And that was kind of what I led with, and that's how I started kind of moving more where I was right. I'm creating content for different projects, and so I think it's important. And I think, like I said, more people need to focus on that. And I think there's a lot of people out here that are probably capable of creating good content, educational content, but they feel they're not an expert in the space. And that's why I challenge everybody to listen to this. It doesn't matter. When you learn something, you can teach somebody else. Like, just don't portray yourself as an expert, which I never did. But as I learned stuff, I was sharing it with others and trying to figure out the easiest way to explain it. And I think that's what we need. Is we need more people to have a little bit more confidence to create if you have a passion for content and you're interested in this Web3 space, make it a journey as you learn, teach others.
But also with podcasts, you get more knowledge by interviewing the people you are interested in,
absolutely,
and you can make shorts of it, and you can educate other people as well by your guest. So
that's a great point. I mean, I think about all the guests I've brought on, and it's because I initially started out just myself. I would get on and I would cover a topic, and I would keep it short, and then I was like, I need to start highlighting what people are doing here and bring those people on. And you're right, that led to so many different things, to where it's connections, it's building community, you're learning from that person. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and speaking of which, I know I owe you a spot on your podcast, and I will make good on that very soon.
Yeah, and I have to flip and get Phil on mine as well.
yeah. Well, maybe we'll just recreate this on your show.
So follow. No, okay. The future of blockchain. How do you envision the future of blockchain and cryptocurrencies evolving? And where do you see Web3 platforms in this future landscape?
Yeah, is that for me or?
Yeah, that's for you, Wayne.
All right. Yeah. I mean, kind of what we talked about. You mentioned you kind of tied into AI, and there's some things that are being built, like especially with Asvoria and others, where I think AI is going to accelerate. It's going to accelerate adoption, accelerate the creation of new tech, just because we've all had limitations in the past. Where, like I said, I'm not a coder, but if I wanted to build an app right now, I could figure it out. Right? I can use the AI tools and I can figure it out. I can use it to check code. So I think we're going to really see an acceleration of that, and more people are starting to wake up to the understanding that decentralized networks are it's not just about, oh, it's blockchain, it's crypto. No, decentralized networks give you more trust, more reliability. I wouldn't understand why any company wouldn't want to have, especially their most valuable assets, on chain instead of in a central server. And you're going to see that happen. There's one analogy, and I'm trying to think. I think it was Andreas Antonopoulos. I would constantly devour content, and one of the things I loved that was said at one point was, it was talking about the telephone lines. And you think about, at one point, we're using this internet over telephone lines. Let's face it, if we were doing that today, we wouldn't be able to stream this, right? It was so slow and clunky. It was old technology. We're trying to use new technology on old infrastructure, and it was clunky. But eventually, the technology evolved to where now it's flipped, that inversion, to where not just about every landline phone call you make is actually over the internet. It's basically, we flipped it to where even banking at some point it's just going to be an app on chain, because all the different features of centralized banking can be replicated and adapt on the blockchain. So I think we're going to see it used a lot more, with a lot more reliability, and we're going to see some interesting techs. I mean, we've seen proof of work and many different versions of proof of stake, and I think we're going to see some hybrid models, maybe even new ways to verify that, because not every network needs to have the security of the Bitcoin network with proof of work, right? If I tell people all the time, if I'm going to just think about money transactions. If I'm going to buy a candy bar in the store, I don't necessarily need to pay for that with Bitcoin. I need a transaction that's fast that I can pay at checkout. Versus if I'm buying a piece of real estate, Bitcoin's the best and most secure network you can use. So it's really just, I think we're going to see that hybrid of multiple different chains. And then this is kind of my prediction, and it's kind of come from some of the stuff I've read in the past, is that we're going to start to see really smart wallets to where the user doesn't even have to know which cryptocurrency they're using. They have a bucket of assets in their app, and it has a certain value. It may not be pegged to the dollar, maybe pegged to Bitcoin's value. I don't know, but at some point they're just going to go, and when they go to spend, based on the amount they're sending and the type of transaction it is, will determine which asset is actually spent. So a smart wallet that could either spend it, convert it, or do what they need to do just to be able to simply pay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious how this will evolve in governance level, because I know Europe is difficult with this, and the USA now with the ETF, that's a good thing and not a good thing at the same time. But for Europe, it's here in Belgium, for example, it's terrible. If you talk about cryptocurrency, my father-in-law is a banker, and every time I show my wallet to him, because he did a deposit of 200,000 euro, I got 7% in 5 years. I was like, oh, look, from summer till now. But yeah, I'm curious how this will evolve on governance level.
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge. I tell you, I mean, what's funny is it's coming around. I have a friend that we actually had lunch on this past Friday, and he was one of the main investment managers in our area for JP Chase. And for the longest time, myself and a few others, we kept trying to talk to him about Bitcoin and crypto. And then he finally left that job, and now he has his own investment firm. And he said, if we would have, he said, there was a few years ago, if we would have said Bitcoin in the office, we'd have gotten fired. Like, we weren't allowed to even mention the name. It's kind of funny. It's almost like like the show Beetlejuice, you can't say it. That's definitely the perception's changing, but I think we're going to see a flip happen if certain countries don't get on board, including the U.S. I mean, the ETF is one step, but and I've got mixed feelings about it. Just like you said, there's pros and cons to that. It definitely is helping with the scarcity of my Bitcoin that I hold, but at the same time, Russell mentioned before we started recording, I've been traveling a lot lately, and it wasn't, don't get me wrong, I love seeing the world, but it was because all the places where things are really happening have been in Asia and a few places in Europe. Like, I was in Istanbul, I was in Singapore, I was in Bangkok, I was in, South Korea. A lot of those places are really embracing, and, I haven't been to Latin America yet, South America, Central America, but there's a lot of adoption happening there. And give it a few years, and if the countries that are more opening to this technology and don't hinder that innovation, they're going to benefit. Those are going to be the thriving countries, and the ones that were really took a strong stance against it, we're not doing it, we're going to pass laws to outlaw it or ban certain aspects of it, those are the ones that are going to really fall behind, because I think that's the next giant wave of wealth transfer.
Yeah, it comes back to, and when we were in Bulgaria a couple months back, I actually spoke on the subject of the principle of the sooner the better, and this is a perfect encapsulation of that, because eventually everyone's going to be on board, just like with every technology adoption cycle that we've seen. Eventually everyone's going to get there, but the sooner you get there, the better off you'll be, and the better your competitive advantage will be. And so, it's anyone that's doing it now, like, we're still so early in all of this that it's an absolutely opportune time for people to, from an individual up to the macro level of nation states. It applies equally.
Yeah.
So Belgium will be bankruptcy. Yeah, because we are always the last one in line.
Look, the U.S. too. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think the ETFs were kind of forced, and if we don't see some changes here, it's kind of the same thing. And to your point, Russell, one of the scenarios I give, again, this was something I think goes back to when I used to listen to all those talks of Andreas Antonopoulos. You talk about technology adoption cycles, and think about the automobile. So when the automobile first came about and was really starting to catch steam, there was in the UK, they passed a law that said you needed 3 people to operate a motor vehicle. You needed a driver, you needed a flagman to walk ahead to let people know that a car was coming, and you needed a spotter engineer to sit in the car with you. And we can laugh at that. It's a silly law. It hindered innovation. But has the UK ever been an automobile powerhouse since then? No, they finally had to take that law back, and that was the sooner the better, right? Well, they took forever, so it wasn't better for them. They missed out on being a leader because the prior, steamboat revolution, they were leading, right? And then they missed out on that. And we see the companies that embrace that technology really, really thrived. And so it's a similar concept here that if we don't get on board, or if a country doesn't get on board, they could be a problem. And, Phil, like where you are in Belgium, where I am, I was actually just taking some notes last night. We need to connect more. And I know there's a faction in the US that's actually doing this, but connect with lawmakers and those that are open to listen to explain it. Because realistically, people either they understand what it is, and if they're against it, then it's because they want to keep power where the centralized power is now, or they don't understand it. And that's where we got to help break down barriers and help them understand it, because they're going to be passing laws on something they don't understand. We see it all the time, right? They're trying to pass these crazy wallet laws when the wallet doesn't gather any data of the user as far as their KYC. So why would you pass laws requiring that when it's a piece of software? And we just got to educate people on that.
Yeah, maybe we can start here. What is your advice for users to maximize their impact and success in blockchain? Because also for me, I'm a marketeer, a concept developer, but I don't have that much experience in the blockchain technology. I turned down two Bitcoins in 2015 for logo design, so I was stupid now. But yeah, what is your advice?
It's really, you're right. Everybody's got their different talents, but we've got to focus on building community, sharing this information with others. So it goes back to kind of what I talked about earlier, where, we've got to do our part. If you have the potential to connect to someone that has the influence to pass laws, or someone in the business industry that could adopt this, take the time to educate them. Someone has to educate people along the way. You think about, it's funny, you see it pop up occasionally on Twitter, right? Where Michael Saylor, back, was it 2013 or 2012, where he tweeted about Bitcoin being dead or something like that? And then now where is he today? He's an advocate. He's pushing it. Someone had to give him the quote unquote orange pill, right? To say, hey, this is what it is, and understand it. And I think there just needs to be more of that. There needs to be events focused on education. That's one thing that I kind of miss is, 2018, I wanted to learn more about this space. From a concept of, I understood it, but I want to see what was real and what wasn't. So that was when the market was going down. So I started traveling to events to learn more. Met a lot of great people, right? But I didn't really learn a lot at those events, other than the people I met. I was able to network and connect and make some of these connections that have lasted since. But I think there needs to be more education focused events, to where it's not $1,000 or $500 to get into the event. If you're a new person and you just want to attend the education track, make it free or cheap. You know what I'm saying? That's what I think we need, because then people can get in, they can learn, they can meet people. And that's really, I find, what's missing from a lot of the events today. They're great if you're already in the industry, but if you're new, trying to figure it out, it's hard.
And also unbiased educational people talking about it at university as well, because at this point it's all biased, it's all scam, it's all okay.
Yeah, they teach them, it's blockchain, not cryptocurrency, not realizing that if you don't have an incentive structure on your network, why would anybody run it, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I like to say that saying that you like blockchain but you're not into crypto is like saying you like airplanes but you're not into wings. One doesn't work without the other.
Right.
So.
I like that.
Okay, yeah, my questions are up. The time is also almost up. So, Russell, do you have an additional question for Wayne?
No, I just would like to say that, just overall, I love, Wayne, what you're doing in the space and your push for education and mass adoption. And, we certainly have our share of hackers and scammers and unscrupulous people in this space, but you're one of the good ones. And I'm grateful to have you in my network. And to have you as a friend. So thank you for joining us today.
Let's go for your PhD and let's go to the universities to educate younger
Yeah.
people on blockchain.
Yeah, we've got to. And thanks, Russell. I definitely appreciate it. I think likewise, we definitely gravitate to the people that that are doing real things in this industry and who you can trust. Russell, what you guys are doing. We definitely need to connect again.
Yeah.
To update on some of the updates on Asvoria and others and see what's happening. And also I look forward to hopefully connecting with people at events, you or anybody else that's listening. There's a lot of events this year, get out and attend those, learn more about the space.
Yeah, NFT.NYC is in April, so that
see you there.
hopefully will be a great one. We'll definitely be there as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Great, guys. Thank you very much for this podcast, and we'll see you soon.
All
Thanks,
right.
guys.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Everybody.